What is up, YouTube? Welcome to episode 8 of PokéPrep, the series where I give you all my best tips and tricks that I've learned through my many years of competing to make you a better player, to improve your team building, your preparation, and your mindset. Today we're going to be talking about what you should be doing when you're on a win streak to help you end that win streak, as well as start regaining some confidence that you may have lost from those continuous losses. The first thing you need to be doing is taking notes about your games. Taking notes about your game, about the things that you did well, the things that went bad, some of the goods or bads that went on with your team, some archetypes that your team may be weak to or strong against. Noting down these things is not only going to help you figure out what areas that you need to start improving upon, but it'll also show you what areas you are already proficient in that you may not need to focus on, so you can spend that time improving on another area of your game that may be a little bit weaker. You want to avoid taking notes that are just negative thoughts and not the actual situation that's on hand, such as, I got hacked out, I suck at this game, Pokemon sucks. We all do lose some games to hacks, that's just the game that we play, but the truth is there's almost always something that you could have done better either in your game or your team building that would have helped you prevent this going forward. Things such as maybe your team's too slow and isn't able to outspeed Landorus, meaning that you're weak to rock slide flinches. Maybe during a game that was super close and you lost because you got crit, if you look back, actually you lost the lead, which means that your opponent had more time to start getting these critical hits and you were having to make defensive plays to get back ahead since you started behind on turn 1. Giving your opponents more turns to crit you is only going to equate to more crits. The first tip we're going to talk about is taking notes on the games that you're playing. Now, it makes sense that this would be the first thing that you focus on because identifying the reasons that you're losing is going to be the first step to figuring out. This is going to be the best first step because identifying the flaws that you need to fix is going to be the best way to begin the process of fixing those areas, getting better, and turning this losing streak into a winning streak. Next up, you want to start by learning your tilt profile. Now, every player tilts at some point, but some players tilt a lot harder than other players. If you have a hard time dealing with tilt, then what you're going to want to start doing is learning your tilt profile. What this is in the book of The Mental Game of Poker by Jared Tendler, he goes into great depth about tilt. He talks about the 7 different types of tilt, and in the book, he breaks down how to identify which areas of tilt that you're suffering from and how to begin to fix them. This is extremely important because if you're consistently tilting, then you're consistently putting yourself in a frame of mind that's negative, and it's not going to help you end this win streak. And the longer you're on this win streak and the longer you're tilted, the deeper you're going to dig yourself into this hole. So you need to be prioritizing fixing your tilt. And this book, The Mental Game of Poker, Volume 1 by Jared Tendler, is the perfect way to do it because I myself read this book, identified in that book that out of the 7 types of tilt, I was really suffering from 2 types of tilt. I put in the work to fix those, and now I can say that most of the time I don't tilt. I do tilt from time to time, but it's very mild because I put in a couple years of work of actively working on my tilt, and it's extremely worth it because tilt is the worst self-inflicted gaming handicap that you can give yourself, and it's something that you can work to avoid. The next tip I have for you is turning a timer on. This could be a physical timer like a cooking timer, or it could be the timer on Showdown, or if you're playing in-game, you already have a built-in timer. The reason for this is not to rush you to make your plays, it's actually to show you how fast you're playing and allow you to slow down. Most players, when they're on a losing streak, they are tilting, and when they are tilting, they're not fully mentally clear, which is causing them to play too quickly, and playing too quickly directly causes misplays. If this is you, you're playing too quickly, you're clicking moves, and you know as soon as you click it, you realize, oh no, I was supposed to do this is so obvious. If you just gave yourself that extra 10 seconds to think, then you would have been able to make the correct play, but you're tilting so hard that you're not fully thinking and you're just trying to play and get back the rating points that you may have lost. And the more you do this, the harder you're going to tilt and the more you're going to lose. Turn a timer on and fill out that timer. Take as much time as you possibly can to think about your move, so that way you're not rushing, you're allowing yourself to slow down, think about the game, give yourself the best chance to make the most optimal play, which ultimately is going to give you the best chance to win the game. If you are on a losing streak, but you find yourself you're not rushing, and in fact you are playing slow, and the timer does begin to start to rush you and give you anxiety, then ignore this step. This is strictly for people who are rushing too much. The timer is going to give them a quantifiable data point that they can see how long they're taking, and they'll be able to dictate how long or how quickly they choose their turns by watching the timer. The next one is probably the most obvious, but it is just to take a break from the game. If your emotions are very high, if you're having a very negative mindset because you keep losing, then your best option is not going to be keep playing. It's actually just going to be taking a step away from the game so you can get your emotions back down to neutral, start to clear your mind, and get back to a more of a neutral or winning mindset about the game. This could be a short break, like you just go for a walk or you go hang out with some friends for a couple hours. It could be a more extended break, like a couple days, a couple weeks, or even a month. But you need to keep in mind that mental health is extremely important. This is a video game. This is meant to be fun. I know we're all competing. I'm a very serious competitor for myself, so I know that the emotions can get really high when things aren't going well, but you need to understand that damaging your mental health and ruining your day-to-day over a video game even if it is your competitive outlet, is not worth it. This game should be something that you should look forward to, that you should have a positive mindset when thinking about. And if you're having a negative mindset about it, it's probably time for you to step away, so that way you don't dig yourself into a deeper hole and eventually burn out, or even worse, start to not like the game and not even return to the game at all. The next thing is something that may not work for everybody, but it worked really well for me, and that's having some sort of motivational source that you can go to get yourself back into that neutral mindset. You want to find some sort of motivational source that you can connect to improving as a player, so that whenever you watch it, listen to it, read it, you get that burning passion inside of you to grow as a player. You get reminded why you're grinding, why you want to become a better player, those tournaments that you want to win, that rank that you want to hit. And you also want to find something that's just going to put you into a winning mindset. When you're in a negative mindset and you're looking at the game negatively, it's going to be a lot harder for you to win because you're going to care a lot less about the game. But if you put yourself back into a winning mindset by watching somebody that really motivates you, let's say somebody like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, and that motivates you to keep grinding as a competitor to get better, and having this as a crutch as something that you can go back and watch to get you back to that winning mindset is extremely important. I'd recommend going through and finding a bunch of things that motivate you if you don't have them already. And even if you do have a few motivational sources, I recommend trying to find a couple more, because after a while, if you constantly need motivation, the same source isn't going to give it to you. You need to really find the drive of why you want to grow as a player and what you're willing to do to get there. If you don't have any sources that motivate you, I recommend you find some. Even if you have some already, I recommend that you find some more, because if you keep going back to the same motivational piece, it's not going to motivate you as much because you know that you've seen it a million times. Also, if you find yourself consistently needing to go back to a motivational source, this goes back to the last thing to talk about. I think you need to take a break. You're probably burned out, because having to find the motivation to play each day probably means that you're not really looking forward to the game. You're not having fun with the game, and you should probably just take a step away so you can really analyze if you want to continue competing in this game. The next tip is the one that's probably going to be the best for most players, as well as the one that's going to be the most fun, and that's playing with others. That could be your friends or maybe some people that you met in a Discord that you feel comfortable talking to. The great thing about Pokemon is that not every player plays the same, so most players have a different outlook on the game. If you're really stuck in a mindset that's causing you to lose, playing with others to get an outside look on the games that you're playing, the team that you're using, and how you're piloting that team is going to help you improve, because you're going to figure out the bad habits that you're stuck in, and you're going to be able to start getting yourself out of those, start thinking about matchups a different way that you may have been previously, as well as it's just going to lighten the mood. Having friends around to talk to and joke around with is going to make it a lot less tilting. It's going to make losses a lot less harder, because you're going to be able to just laugh it off with some friends or analyze what went wrong, and overall just make the whole process better, easier, more fun. And it's going to be a great way for you to not only gain skills as a player, because you're going to be talking with others and figuring out how they view the game, but it's also going to help you end your win streak, because chances are if you're playing with two or three different people on Showdown helping each other get better, it's going to be a lot easier to win than it was if you're just playing by yourself. The last tip I have for you is writing in a journal or talking to somebody that you trust. This is going to help release a lot of negative energy, because you're going to have a lot of you're going to have a lot of pent up you're going to have a lot of built up negative energy, and it's going to be a lot easier to release it through writing or talking than just keeping it built up inside of you and having it destroy you. This is going to help you release this is going to help you release a bunch of negative energy by getting it from in your brain and getting it out. I don't know how to say this well. This is going to help release a lot of negative energy that you've This is going to help release a lot of negative built-up emotions that you have towards the game. You're going to be able to get all of your emotions out on paper, or you're going to be able to vent to somebody and get out all the things that you're thinking, the things that you feel bad about, the things that aren't working, the things that you wish you're going. You'll be able to vocalize that, and not only is that going to help you release the negative energy, but it's also going to help you start clarifying the things that you need to do to start moving forward. If you do decide to write this down, you don't have to share it with anybody. There's no reason that you have to do that. If you just want it to be private, then you can just write it down, vent, and then put it away. But if you do prefer talking with somebody and having somebody guide you along this, then talking to somebody else is going to be great. But the whole purpose of this, much like many of the other ones, is just to get you back to a neutral emotional level. It's going to help get a lot of negative emotions out, which is ultimately going to help you become a better player, because the more positive that you are of a mindset, the more you're going to be willing to learn and get better despite losses. Well, that's it. That's all I got for today. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode of PokéPrep. If you are interested in more VGC improvement content, I'm going to have all my socials linked in the description down below. This will have my Twitch, my Twitter, and my blog, all of which will have consistent VGC improvement content being uploaded to it. If you are interested in checking out the remaining episodes of PokéPrep that are not yet on YouTube, you can find those on my blog alongside many other articles that I've written to help your team building, your preparation, and your mindset. If you aren't into the written format, then don't worry. All PokéPrep are going to be coming here to YouTube in the next few weeks. We only have a few more left after this. But with that being said, I really appreciate you watching today. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this brought you great value, and I will see you for the next episode of PokéPrep. You have a great day. Goodbye.